Hi everyone, guys. Today I really want to make quite an important video for me. I think that actually knowing the audience that you're playing to in your business, knowing who it is you're talking to, is really, really fundamental. It's so key, in fact, that I think that if you don't recognize who you're talking to and play to the correct audience and talk and address them in the right way, that you're going to have some serious problems. That goes with, when you're dealing with clients, whether you're dealing with, staff, whether you're dealing with different levels of staff. Knowing the audience that you're talking to is going to be really, really key to persuading and getting the right outcomes that you're looking to get from each particular group that you're talking to. So, just to put that into some kind of perspective for me for a minute, I'm thinking, anybody who's a parent, for example. In fact, actually, let's give another example. All of this will apply to all of us. So every time when we were children, as you're growing up, you've got to imagine that when you go out with your friends, certainly when I did, when I went out with my friends, you went out at the park, or as you got older, you went to sleepovers, and as you got a little bit older, you went out to the pub and you went drinking. Sometimes the way you would go out with your friends, and the way you would socialise, the way you would talk to each other, the way you would behave with one another, that was right, that was okay, that was your kind of banter that you'd have with your friends in that kind of perspective. But one of the things for me is if I took that home, if I suddenly went home to my parents and started talking to my parents in the same way that I would talk to my friends in the pub, I can feel my dad sitting there, so he's looking at me, and I can feel the eyes burning inside of my face. But if I went home, perhaps I did sometimes, went home and used that kind of language and used some of those behaviours at home with my parents, it wouldn't go down too well. It was kind of like a rule book to catastrophe for me, really. If you think about, if you take the behaviours that you have with your friends to the way now that I may talk to my friends or other people that I know outside of the work environment, outside of the business environment, if I took that and that particular mentality and applied that to my workplace, the two things don't really go together very well. So you've got to really think about the audience that you're playing to. So thinking of it from a perspective of a parent, let's say, with my daughter, my oldest daughter, Gracie, love you lots, she's on the cusp of becoming a teenager. So we're getting those boundaries are being pushed, they're getting broken, and the rules are all getting a little bit jaded at the moment in some cases. But at the end of the day, she's going through that process of learning that, okay, how you talk to your friends and what you do with your friends, and it's one thing, but then when you go to school, you wouldn't talk to your teachers in the same way as perhaps you would talk to your friends. And equally, you wouldn't talk to your teacher and your friends in the same way as you talk to your mum, your dad, your nan, your granddad, or even your sisters and your brothers. So it's knowing the audience that you're playing to. So for example, if my daughter came home and she wanted something new, like a new toy or a new game for the Nintendo Switch, whatever things they've got these days, if she wanted any of those things, but asked for it in a way that she's using language that she would use with her friends that she thinks is funny, but actually is crossing a boundary and being rude, give it up. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to go out and buy something for her because she's not being playing to the correct audience. So she's not going to get the outcome she's looking for. Doing that with her friends might be seen as funny. Doing that at home means you lose things and you don't get what you want. So it's exactly the same when you're a manager, when you're working with staff, when you're owning a business, especially in the hospitality industry, I find, because you're getting so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, so many different people coming not only in to work with your business, but also as customers and clients into your business. On a regular basis, you need to know how to perform, how to give that hospitality. Hospitality is all about the art of performance. At the end of the day, it's a theatre with food. And at the end of the day, you need to know how you're performing to your particular audience. Who is your audience? How can you give them the best experience and get the most out of them and be persuasive with that audience? And that means that there is definitely no one size fits all. You need to recognize that audience and play to that particular audience to get what you're looking for. So if we bring that on to, thinking for a second about your staff, looking at the people working in your business, if you treat everybody in exactly the same way, you tend to going to please some people, but keep a lot of people unhappy. And it doesn't mean that those people who are unhappy are the wrong kind of people for your business. It could do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. What it could mean is that person doesn't have the same kind of background or ethos or understanding, or actually that's not the motivating factor for them. You're not pressing the right buttons for that person. And the one thing about us is we're all human, which means that we're not the same. And it comes back onto that same principle. And broadly speaking, when I think about this, I tend to think about more around sports. And certainly, rugby. I love rugby. Come on, you Queens, but separate subject. At the end of the day, for me, in terms of rugby, you tend to have two types of characters. There's obviously variations of each, but they tend to fall into two particular baskets. And, I tend to term those the ones that like the tough, rough love, and those that like the fluffy stuff. So every now and then, someone who needs a pick up and a hug to get them motivated, to let them know, do you know what, it's okay. This happens to all of us. You're not alone. We can move on past this. This doesn't define you. It's a mistake. You learn by these things. This is what you do. And then the tough love, which is the people that need that kind of kick to get them inspired sometimes. And certainly, I've seen both ends of that spectrum in businesses. I've seen the ends of the spectrum that are very severe towards the side of you need a big kick up the arse to get yourself motivated. That's what I'm going to do in my sales team. I'm going to motivate them by scaring the living bejesus out of them. And that doesn't work all the time. Like we said in a previous video, sometimes the scary managers get a short uplift, but not the long-term gravitas to drive the business forward. In the long term, what they tend to find is actually people drop off and go, and you get high levels of turnover and you get low performance levels over the long term. So you need to know how you can balance that out. And, there's two sides of those coins to each individual. Sometimes, some people need the kick up the arse, and sometimes that same person may need a bit more of the fluffy stuff. And it's knowing when to provide that and who the audience is that you're performing to and who you're trying to motivate to get the most out of them. So for me, the crux of all of this that we've just been talking about for the past few minutes is really looking to analyze as a manager, as an owner in your business. You need to analyze the person in front of you, not just the person, but the situation that person is in, the situation how you're trying to persuade them, what you're trying to get them to do, and what may work best with them. And how do you know that? And really that's the next key question. It's all fair and well to say everybody's different, and that same person is not always the same person every day. So how do I know which person, what type of person I'm dealing with that day, what scenario I'm dealing with, that's going to work best to get the most out of that person and persuade them to continue to do the things that you really wanted them to do and that you need them to do in that business, and really to help and support them. Because at the end of the day, the whole of this is about, this is a family member for you. This is a work family. How, you don't just leave that person by the sidelines to struggle. How do I help them? So the key part really, in terms of that moving forward is looking at how can I over a period of time analyze this person in front of me. That comes down to regular meetings, comes down to regular communication, and regularly trying to find out what's happening with those people and how they're enjoying themselves and what can you do differently. I talk about this quite a lot in the past about what can you give back to people. So it's not good enough as an employer just to turn around and say, I pay you your wages, I give you annual leave, I've given you a job, what more do you want? Just do what I'm asking you to do. It's not good enough to ask that anymore. You also need to go into depth and say, what can I give back to you? What can I give back to you to help and motivate you to do more than that? Money is, in the top 5 of things that drive and inspire people to want to work for you. It is, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's not all 5 things. And there's 4 other things on that list that would motivate someone to work and work a bit harder or go above and beyond for you. And that's where we come into the whole ethos about the working family, etc., etc. But understanding that person, understanding your audience takes time. You can't just assume you know who that person is. You assume you know what's going on in their lives. You assume what their motivating factors are going to be. Not everybody's the same. It's bad to make those assumptions. The only way you find that out is to actually get to know those people. And the only way you get to know those people is to actually conversate with them, to actually communicate. And that also means listening as well as talking to those people, genuinely listening to what those people are saying, not just, hearing it and acknowledging, yeah, and then moving on. Actually listening to what those people are actually saying and building up some kind of recognition as to who that person is and getting an understanding as to what helps them, what motivates them, even asking them those sorts of questions as to how they feel inspired, what would help them. So at the end of those kind of what we term one-to-one meetings or regular review meetings or a conversation with somebody who's in your team, asking them for feedback on you. How can you help them more? What would help them to want to achieve more? What is it they're looking for? Where is it they're looking to go? Is this a stopgap job? Or what else is it? And what more can you learn from that? And there's so many other things we can discuss about that. But understanding the audience you're talking to is fundamentally critical when it comes to your staff, because it's not just about the fact that they're different to your customers, they're probably different to your partners and the owners and what have you. It's the fact that each and every one of them is different from each other and they're not all the same every day. So you need to understand that and what makes these people tick, to be able to understand what the audience is that you're presenting to and how you can best help them and how they can be motivated to best help you from that process. Guys, it's been a pleasure, and I'll be back soon. But remember to outstaff your competition. Take care. All the best.